Hello, gang! Once again, it's Force Friday. Yes, this is proof that we are not in a basement in our mom's homes. This is actually a different layer completely, but we hope you're doing well. James is not with us, but luckily we have the other James with us, so we're here, and of course I'm Sean Sharp, and this is James.
James Armstrong, meeting the James quota.
Making the James quota. Of course, we always have to have a James on the staff. So today we're going to go over a couple of things that have been in the news and developing and have a little bit of discussion points. Hopefully you'll find it fun or entertaining, or if not, please let us know in the comments later. So moving right along. James provided the show notes, so I just want to say that out to James. We miss you, of course.
Yeah. But he's taking a much-deserved vacation
with the baby,
yes,
and the young one, and
yes,
the wife, and the family. They're going to the beach, so basically they're saying, screw you guys, I'm out of here,
yeah,
which is, as James observed, much deserved.
Yeah, and he's going where the sand is.
Don't like sand.
Doesn't like sand.
No, no one likes sand.
I think he would want me to work that in.
Yeah, I have a feeling he would.
Yeah.
So, from the show notes, it seems like the Force is strong with the Crown in England, so strong in fact they were able to resist the power of Star Wars.
Those Brits.
So let's get this straight. They said no to Lucas. You know, the Queen is very powerful. She has connections. But basically it was due to the fact that the Nick Day, the Crown Estate's head commercial operations, told the BBC that they had been approached by location scouts a few years ago. Notice, a few years ago. But the request wasn't right for the estate. Nick went on to say that Star Wars was just such a huge thing, the risk to the park was just too great.
The Queen said no.
So the question to James is seeing how this request was from a few years ago, what could have been filmed there, and what film do you think it would have been for?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. First off, what really bugs me is that the films, as laid out in this article, that were allowed access were like one of the Harry Potter movies and one of the Bridget Jones movies. So I'm thinking the Queen is obviously showing a bias toward more British-centric properties.
Do you think?
Yeah, I do think. I do. I think she's still maybe like not gotten over the Revolutionary War or something.
They don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it over there? Oh,
no. Actually, when I was in England, and yes, I've been to England, they referred to it as the American Rebellion. Not Revolution, the American Rebellion.
So, like, to put it in a Star Wars context, yeah, so this is the British Empire saying no to the American Rebellion. Seems to fit just about right.
Seems to fit.
There you go. But I don't know, it's like, I'm intrigued how they didn't put an actual date on it, and it says a few years ago, so I would think, I mean, if it's more recent, it would be Force Awakens, and as far as that movie is concerned, I don't know, because the only scene that took place in the woods, I think, was at Maz Kanata's place.
That was my thought as well.
Yeah, so it could have been the showdown between Rey and Kylo Ren. My other thought is if it's going farther back to maybe Episode 3, which I doubt because so much of that was done on a soundstage, but maybe they were thinking about using the forests to substitute Alderaan, because that was a forested planet. I mean, they had it in CGI form,
right?
But those are the only two I can think of as to what this could have led to.
Well, you know, I have two minds. Now, the fact that they allowed Bridget Jones there and Harry Potter there, and yes, I'm going to knock Harry Potter fans around a little bit, and yeah, get your wands out. It's more the fact of, I was concerned with, they probably looked at it, the power of Lucas's fan base, of all the fans that may possibly visit the site. Because there are tours, there are pilgrimages that people make on their own and other people organize, such as you can actually go to Luke's house in, I believe, northern Morocco.
Or Tunisia.
Tunisia, I stand corrected. And actually see the house and see the village where Mos Eisley was. So you can actually go on these tours and see it. With that being in part of the consideration, I'm not knocking fans. It's not the film crew that I think is damaging. It's all the illegal trespassing and tourists.
Right.
And quite frankly, you guys know how destructive tourists are, especially when they're Americans. Yes, I'm bashing Americans. on the fact that we litter and we tend to destroy things just to get that great selfie in. So it might be that she hasn't gotten over the rebellion, but it may also be she doesn't want to come out every week yelling, "You, get off my lawn!" You know?
I would love to see Queen Elizabeth say, "Get off my lawn."
Yeah, I actually, now that you say it, I want that moment. I'm going to have to go to...
Yes.
Sorry, I have to go back to England now just so I can have some royal yell at me to get off their property. Yeah.
Well, for the record, when I've been at a national park taking a photo of somebody or of myself, I always pick up my trash and other people's trash. So
yeah, it's just a concern. Over the Labor Day weekend, I was in the Redwoods, and
nice.
One of the park rangers was talking about the big fights to protect the Redwoods from people just not really being malicious, but just being ignorant of the damage their behavior causes. And I'm not saying anyone's malicious. It's just if you have 10,000 people all take one acorn, or one stick, or one something, it adds up exponentially, and it causes a catastrophic damage over the long run. Such as when I was a kid, Mesa Bird, you could climb inside Mesa Bird. Today it's chained off. Just because of that behavior and the damage that tourists. So, I kind of have to support the crown on that. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit?
Yeah, I know it's going to come back to haunt me. Yeah, my knighthood I'm doing this for the knighthood. Just purely for the knighthood. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I say abolish the monarchy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, never mind the bollocks. Here comes the... Moving on. So, now, the next thing that James brings up in his research is, how long is it? Which I find a rather personal question. Yeah. It's apparently very long. The runtime of The Last Jedi has been revealed. A savvy Star Wars fan has noticed the little detail on the AMC Theater website. Its runtime for The Last Jedi is 2.5 hours long. That's right, 150 minutes. So basically, this is going to be like the Joe Walsh Solo of films. So don't get the large popcorn and large soda. I mean, you may be suffering before the end of the film.
Well, not to show my bias, but I'm going to show my bias since I work in a movie theater. No, buy the large drink and popcorn. Very often you can get a free refill on that, and it makes a good late night snack.
I never knew about the free refill. So what do you think about the runtime of the Last Jedi versus, say, The Empire Strikes Back, which has been the longest of the Lucas properties?
Yeah, no, I was surprised, because typically the Star Wars movies are very, very average as far as runtime goes. They just have a good 2-hour film, and then they're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like 2.5 hours. Like for a lot of major blockbusters, that's kind of become the standard the last several years. I think the Dark Knight was 2.5 hours. The first Avengers movie was around that that time as well. Or at a minimum, it was 2:20. And so a lot of these big blockbuster ones, be it from Disney or Warner Brothers, are going for just a good chunk of time to tell their story. So I'm a little surprised, because I think that one thing Star Wars does do right is keep up the pacing in their films. Like, you go from a little bit of dialogue to action, a little bit of dialogue to action. They're very good at getting it compacted into 2 hours, and so it makes me curious what they're going to do with the extra half hour this time around.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't turn into like a French film. And yes, I'm bashing French films. Just for the fact that there are times that there are these long, awkward silences where nobody says anything, and then you watch the one piece of paper roll across the street for like 3 minutes. I don't think that's really Lucas's style, nor the directors that Lucas has brought on board. I'm talking House of Mouse when I say Lucas, let me be clear. To me, they're kind of intertwined. That's not the style the directors that have. Now, of the films that you named, the only film that I ever noticed was too long, I thought, was The Dark Knight.
To each his own.
But, no, I love the film. It's just the fact that you could tell that it was much longer than it should have been, in my humble opinion. Yes, we're being visited by yet another patron. Yes, get down. Get down. So, it's... The thing is, when you watch the original New Hope, it seemed to be over in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
When I first saw it, it was like... It was almost jarring how quick it was. And then you watch Empire. I didn't really notice the time on Empire. And for the record, I saw it 13 times in the movie theater.
See, that one, like, of all the Star Wars films, to me, always feels the longest.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, and I think that it's just all the Jedi training stuff. To me, kind of dragged out a little bit, and my concern going into The Last Jedi is that maybe they might have a few too many characters. I don't know, because we got to have Rey's storyline. We got to have this new character, Rose. We got Finn. And we have Poe Dameron and Leia. We're probably going to have a good amount of screen time for the bad guys as well. And so you got Kylo and General Hux. They might...
Phasma.
Yeah, Phasma, Snoke. So at some point I'm thinking...
And the guards. We know Snoke and the guards. Yeah. The Praetorian guards.
Yeah. So I would just worry about, them maybe, I don't know, stacking the deck a little too much. But I haven't seen the movie yet, and so I will happily stand corrected if I'm wrong. It could be the movie feels like it's a 2-hour film, but has that extra content that doesn't bog it down a little bit. I would not be myself if I did not make a Batman v Superman reference and say that the theatrical cut, which runs 2.5 hours, feels like it's 2.5 hours. But the Ultimate Edition, where they add an extra half hour, actually feels shorter, just because it fills in the story points a little better, in my humble opinion. So if the pacing's right, and they got enough action to ramp up our adrenaline, I think the movie will be okay.
Well, to support what you're saying, if they reveal interesting story aspects, things that catch your attention, it's like sitting in a lecture. If it's a subject that you're really into and they bring up points that you've always asked questions about, you don't care about the time.
No.
You don't care how much if your butt's going numb. It doesn't really affect you. I'm hoping that we'll get to see a lot of character development. This is supposedly a bridge film. So there's a lot of loose ends you want to start to narrow down. Although with the introduction of characters and storylines, like with Finn recovering and his secret mission, quote unquote, the character of Rose, Phasma returning, as you said, Hux, Kylo Ren. Everybody's wanting to see Rey, Kylo Ren, and of course Luke. There's a lot of stuff going on, but of course in the reading we also know that Snoke's going to have some time on screen.
Right. Yeah.
So is it going to be like a football stadium where they're all crammed in all at once? Look, we promised you would see all these people. We didn't say how you were going to see all these people.
Yeah.
I think it'll go well if it really feeds you a lot of good story points.
Yep.
If not, I think it's going to suffer from, as you pointed out, Batman v Superman. Without that extra story aspect, it will drag.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just my take on it, guys. Please feel free to comment and send hate mail. I'll give you the address later. Now, moving on. Okay, so Star Wars Forces of Destiny. Now, we all have our own opinion on it. Let's see. So far, we have four episodes out now, and actually, the funny thing is, we have more trailers for the Forces of Destiny, and more trailers for. And maybe jumping ahead a little bit. Let's rewind here.
Going back.
Trailers for Rebels Season 4, which I'm really looking forward to, and I know all of you Ahsoka fans are looking forward to. The thing is, we're getting more trailers for Rebels than we are for The Last Jedi. Is it because the season is not that good? Is one argument I'm going to pose to James. Or is it really trying to keep you guys attached to it because we know this is the final season? What do you feel?
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't watch the show, and I need to watch the show.
You need to watch the show.
Yeah.
So
I would kind of merge those two topics for a second and just say one point, which is the cool thing about those Forces of Destiny short cartoons is that they fill in little gaps here and there between the movies, and I like the idea of a show that takes place between Attack of the Clones and the original Star Wars movie, which I think the time period that the show takes place in, or is it after Revenge of the Sith on into the original, or I'm not sure how much of that has
Rebels takes place after Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, that's right, because there was a separate show called The Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So that was there. So
the Clone Wars,
the idea is great.
Rebels leading up to Rebels is like before Force Awakens.
Right.
Because one of the You have Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rogue One, Force Awakens.
Yeah, thank you.
Rebels.
Yeah. Okay.
All right?
Makes
Because
sense.
one of the Rebel ships, the character Rebel ship actually appears in Rogue
I
One.
remember hearing about that.
Yeah, so some of the characters actually survive all the way through. We know some of them survive all the way through Rebels to appear in Rogue One.
But it's like I have many Star Wars fans who are concerned about the lack of a Last Jedi trailer, and I don't know. I am of the opinion they're just waiting to hype up the film at a later time.
I don't know. You know, let me counter that.
Yeah.
For me, it's the whole like Ron Howard constantly like tweeting pics. You know, it's like you're getting freebie trailers. One, I want Ron Howard to stop. I wasn't in for the last episode, as you guys know. So I want to touch on that. It's like, Ron, stop. Seriously, stop. Don't piss away the magic. Do that for the DVD release. You know, the extended cut stuff.
What's the behind the scenes magic, though?
Save it.
No.
Save it.
No.
Save it. So, for me, I'm okay with only one trailer. Because, to me, I don't know, I'm older, and I see it as that's the way it should be. You make one trailer, move on. Don't give away too much of the story. Which I kind of feel like with Rebels, they're kind of giving away too much insight.
Okay. Like, has this season even started, or are they just building it up?
They're building up.
Okay, well, yeah, then it's a little weird from the cartoon show's point of view. Like I say, I think that they just finished The Last Jedi, so they're probably just getting the best trailer moments put together. And that movie is going to make all the money no matter what.
Oh yeah, it's going to make a ton of money. Plus, the whole thing about we're supposed to watch, NFL on a certain day.
Yeah. We have to watch football.
Got to watch football. Yeah, so got to watch football just to see, the Super Bowl halftime show. That's going to be the moment.
Oh yeah.
It's always the moment. The fact that for 30 seconds you pay over $1 million for a commercial.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Well, that's a Super Bowl price thing. I'm not sure how much Monday Night Football would run you up. But Disney has all the money, so they got it.
Yeah, it's not like they're hurting.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Yeah. Like, I would wonder, are they trying to just get more people to tune in to Rebels just to boost TV stuff? And that would be weird just because Disney has their streaming service that might be coming out next year, and this show might have already wrapped up by then. So, I mean, maybe it's just a last gasp of the TV viewership that they're going for before pretty much all this stuff is eventually going to land on streaming. Yeah.
It may also be the fact of we have to really talk brass tacks. The possible loss of a beloved character.
Oh, okay.
I know a lot of my friends who watch serialized things on Netflix and other things. When their favorite character is lost, they literally lose the passion for following the show. And quite honestly, Ahsoka was such a huge character. I really wonder if they lost people. And I think that was one of the reasons why Mr. Filoni was always doing the artwork and kind of romancing the fans back and keeping the hope alive. Keep hope alive. Is the fact that when you have people that are truly invested in a popular character, and the character suddenly leaves the show for whatever reason, you will lose a viewership. Just look at soap operas or anything else.
There's a really good line from Dune, which I'm finally reading. I had to get back to, but there's a great line. I forget which character says it, but it said, "Hope clouds observation."
Yeah, and shout out to Comic Book Girl. Yeah, we're big fans. It's also the fact that hope will also obscure, what is a realistic expectation,
right,
and lead to bitterness.
Yeah.
And more than one of us have been burned on hoping for something greater in a sequel, especially than what was ever promised. On the hope of I hope they cover.
To use a sports analogy, which another YouTube personality has quoted before. I think it was John Campea, where he said, in the NFL, the coach who starts listening to the fans eventually becomes an ex-coach or something, or something like that. I think there are times where, just from what I can observe as an outsider looking in on the show, they're just stretching out this flirtation with killing Ahsoka. And
Don't say that.
Well,
don't say that. That's hurtful. Don't say that.
Well, I don't know.
Ahsoka lives.
Well,
that's Jamie.
Tough.
Yes, but go on.
Sometimes, it's just and if you're just captive to your fan base and you're not willing to just go with the right kill at the right time, then I think eventually that hurts the story. Then you worry about how are the fans react to this, that, and the other. I mean, just lay out your story, lay out your vision. If you got to kill someone, just kill them.
Yeah, unlike George R. R. Martin, who just seems to kill.
Just kill everybody. Or that could also be an incentive to try out some new characters, like bring in someone else who might develop their own fan base. I don't know.
Sure, fair enough. I would cite the fact that, I've always said on the show, and I will always stick to my guns on this matter, story trumps what anyone thinks. One of the hardest things as a writer, and I am a writer, and I'm married to a writer who's published books, is the fact that one of the things they teach you when you're studying the art and craft of writing is that you have to be willing to kill your darlings. Because if you don't, it just won't come over as genuine as you stretch out the story. And that was my fear with Ahsoka versus Vader. You remember I argued very ardently, going, the right move is for Vader to kill Ahsoka. Why? Because it shows his total transformation from point A to point B. And for them, if they cheaped out on it, remember I was going on it so much, is if they cheap out on it, then there's no fear of death. There's no fear of danger, of consequence. It takes away, it makes it, Disneyfied or nerfed from what had been a very engaging film, storyline, from the films to the animated world.
I would just toss in my own example, which is I think I'm a full season behind Arrow on the CW, and specifically it's because they've done that trick where because there's a big fan base for a particular character, they have brought them back from the dead.
Yeah.
It used to be like in the first 2 seasons, you did feel like death had a real consequence, and I remember complimenting the show in that they would kill off certain characters. Maybe they would like bring them back in a flashback, just to give the fans an episode to have them back and kind of just let them know that they're listening a little bit. But when they fully come back from the dead, and in some cases come back from the dead and then get killed again and then maybe come back again, you're just hurting your own show. Just stop doing that.
Because once again, if there are no consequences for these big grandiose story arcs, it also takes away the aspect of sacrifice.
Yes.
And if there is no justification for sacrifice, then you might as well make fun of it. It might as well just be a game. It's just a joke. And honestly, one of the reasons we watch shows like this is that we can experience other people's stories and tales and even their untimely ends as a way to re-examine our own lives and look at our lives and their lives and go, as a comparison, and escapism. And escapism is not a bad word. It's not fantasies. It's not fleeing from reality. It allows you to live other lives and then come back to your own life with a different perspective.
You've got to decompress a little bit.
Yeah, but that's why stories have always existed. So when you cheat the story by not having consequences, I know this is a shaggy dog looping back, but it still goes back to, if there are no consequences to actions, then why have the story at all?
Yeah.
It might as well be playtime where you tell all your friends, run around, let's pretend this. And when it doesn't fit your story anymore, you just, let's pretend something else.
When you reboot.
Yeah, or retcon, like suddenly all these retroactive storylines. Not that I'm bitter in any way. The first 2 books of George R. R. Martin, since we mentioned him, it shocked people that he was willing to kill people. Then it became like, well, all right, now we're jaded because who dies this week? On the HBO and in the books. But at the time, it showed that there was no going back from your action. Once you did X, Y and Z would follow. And that's why it really grips us. All of us who are Game of Thrones fans still remember Ned's death. Because it had consequence, it had meaning. But that meaning now has paled, on the other end of the scale where nobody dies versus so many people die.
Yeah.
So
I really ought to watch Game of Thrones just because I do appreciate them killing people.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. All right.
That's what I want. I want it to have meaning.
That's the thing. It has to have meaning.
Exactly.
It's like, in comparison, George R. R. Martin versus J.R.R. Tolkien, when there is a death in Tolkien, a lot of people said the main heroes survived so much. But people forget Boromir. And his death had a very specific meaning and turning point in the story. And for that, if it hadn't happened, then it would have been ridiculous. How do all these people survive multiple wars and multiple encounters?
Well,
so there was a point to it, the meaning.
Speaking of turning points,
so yes,
move on to this these other cartoons, which we touched on before. But yeah, Disney has.
These are not the cartoons you're looking for. Maybe they are.
Yeah, I found them.
So, have you watched any of the Forces of Destiny cartoons?
Yes, I saw the first two, I think a couple of days ago. Looking at the list right now, there was one of...
we have
Sabine
the
and,
newest recruit.
Yeah, Sabine and someone else. Yeah, they
Ketsu.
were running a mission to hijack some food for the rebellion, which is cool. You don't think about the logistics of supplying food for an army in the Star Wars universe. You're always thinking about weaponry and spy missions. So
they're supposed to have solved this problem. They have machines for everything.
No, it's not like Star Trek where they have replicators and you never really concern yourself about food.
Food or money or gold or
anything.
You get whatever you
utopian
want.
future.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a cute little episode. Although I don't know, I think spoiler alert for this 3-minute cartoon. I think the mission ends with it not going so well, and they get picked up, and I don't even think they got the food, so they failed their mission, unless I watched it wrong. So that one was okay. The rest are actually a lot better. We got more BB-8, which I'm in favor of. They had to take a bomb off the Millennium Falcon during a part of Force Awakens that they added in there.
A little more story point.
A little more story point. And the important thing about that one is that it made reference to the fact that Rey would work on ships and that she was a mechanic on Jakku, because a lot of people reacted to Force Awakens and just said, "Oh, well, she just collects scraps. She doesn't know how to build stuff." So maybe this is a reaction to that, but they actually used the word mechanic and in reference to Rey. So she does have skills which played out in the movie. This goes back to the whole Rey being a Mary Sue thing that came out or that developed a few weeks after the movie came out. So I'm wondering if they're trying to explain her talents a little bit more. It was just maybe a little hint of that. And sure, why not? Because I like the character. Some people thought she was kind of overpowered, but just from Daisy Ridley's performance, I'd say we ought to just give her a break, in my humble opinion. The Yoda one was awesome. I highly enjoyed that one. I would call that my favorite. And the other one was also great just because you got to see some little like a space dogfighting, and it featured Padme very prominently, and that's a character who I think got a bad rap during the prequels, and needs a little more screen time. She does really great
in the Clone Wars. That's the thing. A lot of people grow. Once again, it's something you haven't seen.
Yeah.
The fact that she has all these whole episodes really dedicated to her going on secret missions and doing shit.
Nice.
I mean, completely with Obi-Wan out of the picture, Anakin out of the picture, her really doing some daring, really kick-ass chick stuff.
I know Clone Wars is on Netflix for now until it moves to the Disney thing. So that I can at least binge watch eventually.
That's kind of I have holes in my Star Wars knowledge because, each of us look at different things. But the thing is, they really addressed that with Padme, and I think it was part of a response to the fact that she got so trashed in the prequels.
Yeah.
And it was really a way to flesh her out. And the Clone Wars, accordingly to the House of Mouse, was always about fleshing out the characters to make Anakin's fall even more dramatic, making Padme's demise more dramatic, and trying to bridge the time span to where you could see where the relationship would have really developed. And things of that nature. For me, I have seen, the Forces of Destiny. Honestly, I'm kind of contrary to you. My least favorite was Teach You I Will. I felt it was too after-schoolish. I won't lie to you. I felt it was just a little bit too, I almost expected a G.I. Joe commentary, kind of
Say that as if it were a bad thing.
Yeah, moving on. So, that's my own opinion. I found
knowing is half the battle.
The artwork I thought was impressive, not the style I would prefer. The animation, of course, was excellent. The production values are always good on these things. It's just not a style that I'm a fan of. And like I said, I found this that was my least favorite of the episodes. As for the question that James puts forth to us in our notes, is these are short and sweet episodes, a fun way for younger audiences to get more involved with Star Wars. And he says that kind of questioningly. And
does this get them more involved with Star Wars? Yeah.
Is it? And the thing is, we're a little older, so we can take a little more cynical view. For me, it's like, oh, well, yeah, this is marketing. This is, but then on the other hand, it's to keep the ball rolling and keep the heat and jazz and enthusiasm while you're waiting for the next blockbuster to come out. I come from an era where you were expected to wait. You wait 5-10 years between films. We're we have a little shorter patience period, I would argue. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be difficult for children to get interested in Star Wars. I think that their parents are going to instill it upon them at a very early age, and so I see this as just a cartoon for the parents to show the kids, just to get their Star Wars fix on so briefly. I mean, they're really short cartoons.
Yeah.
And it's just like, outside of the movies, I mean, when it's a character we like, we got to get our fix, like be it a YouTube clip or a comic book or
a book club,
or a 20-minute cartoon show or a novel, something. So it's just another part of the Star Wars arsenal, if I can get that word out, where they just give you a little bit of a fix to get you going until the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, but I can't see it. I just can't imagine a 3-minute cartoon being a huge deal. It's not going to inspire a generation. It's just going to be a quick. Well, like you said, it's just going to be a quick little G.I. Joe after school lesson to teach kids, to stick their chin up a little bit, just make them feel good.
Okay, having to eat my own words on that, but then on the other hand, I would point out the episode that shall not be mentioned had an animated aspect to it that was only 3 or 4 minutes long, but it introduced a pivotal character named Boba Fett.
Oh, okay.
And immediately, even though it was questionable animation for the time period, people were intrigued with him.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a two-edged thing.
Yeah. Well, I feel like these episodes aren't introducing anyone, though. They're just kind of writing off characters that are already around.
Yeah, they're already established, and they're building upon a fan base, interest. It's a very safe move from a production value.
Yeah. So, but like I say, they're well made. They're short. They're cool. Parents will show their kids. They get a little lesson out of it, but they're not a huge deal. They're just a short little cartoon for people to like.
Mm-hmm. For me, I'm like, meh.
They're fun.
I watched them.
The more I do watch them, the less I like the title. Forces of Destiny.
You're expecting something bigger to come out of it.
A little bit. Well, it's just, I don't know, Forces of Destiny. I don't know, it just doesn't roll off your tongue very well, and you think of the Force itself, and I don't know, maybe it's just, I think it's been done too much in storylines, but I'm getting tired of Destiny. This was meant to be all along. Kind of wandering off on a brief tangent, I got into a text message back and forth with somebody recently on the topic of predestination or predetermination. I've gone back and forth with that myself, and I generally think, that a lot of things happen for a reason, but that we can still chart our own path. So maybe it's just me being an adult and thinking too hard about a title for a cartoon that
You have been reading Dune.
I have been reading Dune. It's probably rubbing off on me. And I know just a few minutes ago I said these cartoons are fun, but not a big deal. But the title is kind of starting to stick out like a sore thumb to me. I don't know.
Well, to dwell upon the title, being slightly a deconstructionist here, which is not something I enjoy.
Do it.
Is the fact that when you say Forces of Destiny, it almost implies only these people are Forces of Destiny.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And that's probably why it's rubbing you wrong, because it's showing you these are the forces, these are the archetypes, and guess what? You're not one of them.
Yeah.
When you embody a force or an element and say they're an aspect of fate or destiny, it's the problem of King Arthur.
Yeah.
You can't be King Arthur. Why? Because he is the once and future king. That's it. That's where it ends. That's where it begins. That's it. You're not King Arthur. Deal with it and move on. But it eliminates you from the storyline.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe that's subconsciously why that rubs on you. It's like you are taken out as a potential of being that force of destiny.
I think Dr. Sharp has just properly diagnosed my problem with the title.
Once again, that would be the deconstructionist view of it. Because these are actual, people that we're naming. Now, on a lighter note, and we're being chastised from James from a distance. It's kind of like...
No, I'm going to be very quick when I drop off the show. Cause I'm like, hey, I hope you like it. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Like, what is it? Like, so far we've called for Ahsoka to be killed. We're deconstructing
forces
heroic
we're
deconstructing archetypes. I mean, what do we got left?
Well, we have yet to truly deal in the major influences on Lucas' writing, where he talked about Campbell's The Hero's Journey, and that's where deconstruction comes in and will attack the hero's journey, which was actually a Campbellian aspect that Jung actually was writing about that Campbell built upon. So, there. Okay, if you don't think I know what I'm talking about, look all those things up and then prove me wrong.
I only got half of that.
So, now, Jamie, who's not here with us, likes to bash us for the fact that we watch the videos, we watch the movies, but we're not big readers.
Oh yeah.
He has been on this topic, and this is directed at us, so you may have a laugh at this. Star Wars Book Club news. Star Wars, from a certain point of view, is now out. 40 different stories from 40 years of Star Wars. I feel old. I am about halfway through his book, and I can give a quick review, half review. This book contains 40 different stories from the Star Wars universe with A New Hope. We get to hear from the background characters, from the Mos Eisley Cantina to Boba Fett, what he was thinking while he was standing outside the Millennium Falcon waiting for Han Solo, other than his feet hurting, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We also get to hear from Aunt Beru after she's a bit crispy. I want to read that one.
I'm curious about that one.
We get some Qui-Gon, and we hear from a whole bunch of others, all from a certain point of view. Now the question Jamie wants to point out to us is, am I the only one who reads this stuff on this show?
Yes.
And the answer is yes. All together now?
Yes.
Now, that being said, this is a book that I'm actually really intrigued with for the fact that it's 40 different stories, 40 point of views for over 40 years. That to me is fantastic, showing the length and depth of the Lucas Empire.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued by it. This is the kind of book you could have on your bedside table. You can read a little bit of it, put it down, and there's no continuity for you to catch up on. You could just come back to it a week later, maybe. So that's the beauty of this massive collection of short stories. So just for someone like myself who is kind of scatterbrained when it comes to reading a certain book consistently, I always seem to veer off and read something else and come back to the thing I was reading. This will work just great. And I like the idea when they announced it. I know we had a show about that. I would like to know that if any of these characters are just totally background characters, like just some random civilian, or if they're all people we know, like Aunt Beru and like Boba Fett. I know that there's mention of people in the cantina,
which are background characters.
Yeah, so I always like that. It's always great when they take a step from the core characters. I know you've always made the point that Star Wars kind of feels a little small when it's all said and done, even though it's a big galaxy out there. Yeah. So this seems like the good kind of book to, to just stop that trend, or just to kind of break away from that trend. And yeah, it's always refreshing. I'm trying to recall the name of the episode. I want to cross the streams a little bit. There's a really great Star Trek The Next Generation episode called Lower Decks, where it does not feature heavily any of the major characters from the show. It's all about the ensigns and the engineers and all the little people who work on the crew of the Enterprise. All the actual, working stiffs who are just doing their job.
Yeah, what version of Star Trek was it?
Well, it's a Next Generation episode.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm on the same page.
Next Generation. One of the later seasons. It's like maybe season 6 or 7. But highly recommend, and this seems to be what that book could follow through with.
Well, if anything, it's an examination of what the everyday life is like. One of the things, once again, the deconstructionist argument here is that you only focus on the shiny bits. You only focus on the heroes. You don't focus on the guy that works on his car, you know, like who fixes the Green Hornet's, you know, car, other than Kato. Kato can't do everything, you know. Yeah, I'm sure he goes on strike occasionally. Kato is not recognized you know, for all his efforts. But it's interesting because, one, it kind of builds into the fact that it gives it a sense of realism in everyday life. For, you know, to attack the deconstructionist argument, by doing things like this, it gives it realism, depth, and it makes you feel like this is a world that you could have existed in if not you do exist in. And that's the benefit of stories like that. That in the Japanese anime, they call it, you know, so they have like an anime for every aspect of humanity. Not really joking on that point. And they call it the slice of life, where a lot of the animes will run for a whole year about just accountants. And they don't have superpowers, they're not magic girls, they don't have anything special to divide them from you. But you get to live another life, and you get to see their woes and suffering, so you can emote and make a connection with them. As when they do maybe have a success, you then celebrate along with them.
Okay.
So a lot of these like side stories of the 40 different points of views has the potential to make you feel a greater connection to something you're a fan of, without having to put on funny clothes and join a LARPing club in the woods. You know, not that I'm bashing anyone in any form.
See, that's why the Queen said no. The LARPers would come to the woods.
Well, I'm citing the fact that I once put on my armor and stepped outside my house and was promptly stopped by the local police.
Yeah, well, that's kind of suspicious.
Yeah, no sense of humor when I said it's only because I'm black, right? You know, yeah. I said no sense of humor.
Yeah, no, yeah. There was none there.
Yeah. So, but it's a way for you to invest yourself in something that is not your life and still get a reward out of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I take slice of life books, and I really feel this is more of a slice of life thing, except for Boba Fett.
Yeah, no, like the one book that I borrowed from Jamie has been the Rogue One prequel Catalyst, if I'm mistaken, which I highly recommend. It was a good book, although the ending was kind of rushed, kind of forced. Thanks. But this one sounds like something anyone can pick up, and I might even do so once my reading schedule calms down a little bit.
And you're the one that hasn't seen Clone Wars, right?
Clone Wars. I got to finish Dune. I'm reading comic books, and I'm catching up on movies. Like, I'm still behind on current motion pictures. I haven't seen It or American Assassin. Although I am going to watch Blade Runner 2049 tonight for the early shows. I'm very curious about that one.
Oh, I am so psyched about that film. Not a Lucas property, not a House of Mouse property, but I've always been a huge Philip K. Dick fan. I read him as a kid, and I love the original Blade Runner. I always go to the Paramount here in Austin when they run it, just to have that old theater experience and see it on the big screen. So really looking forward to that. I personally haven't committed to going to see it because of my scheduling, but I'm really glad you're going to go see it because it's the
Yeah, I was going to try to write up a review for the website as well because I haven't done that in a while just because I haven't seen a movie on opening weekend in a long while.
Well, it's also the thing of, you work in like a theater environment. You should be our inside man on that.
Yeah, but when you're working, you don't have time to watch the movies. You can't work and watch a movie at the same time.
I thought that was the benefit of working in that industry.
Well, no, you gotta be doing stuff, man.
You have 2 hours. Okay, I don't work in the industry. I'm not going to criticize an industry I don't work in or know anything about. So that's pretty much all we got on this episode. You got anything to add to it?
I don't. Like I say, we wish our founder, James Waddington, a pleasant vacation. He and his family have definitely earned it. And yeah, we will not be reading any books in his absence, and we're all in favor of killing certain characters and a whole bunch of stuff that he wishes that he could tell us to shut up about.
One of the benefits of course, James not being here, and of course we hope the Waddingtons will have a fantastic and safe time on their vacation, is the fact that he can't tell us we're wrong. So that's where we finally get to go, hee 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 hee, vengeance. So I guess I'll end it for everybody on the grounds of you guys be safe out there, take care, and say hello to your loved ones. We're gone.
Good night.